What you're about to listen to is a Bry-Fy production.
Comic book reviews. Nifty nerd news. Heroes versus villains.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bry-Fy podcast. I'm your host, Bry-Fy the Comics Guy, and if you're looking for a one-man comic book podcast that gives you comic book reviews, nifty nerd news, and all that other shit, and 30 minutes or less where it's free, then you've come to the right place. Newsflash, this episode is going to be over 30 minutes, so it's totally free. It's free every week, guys. I've been doing this for 206 episodes. Haven't charged anyone for any of them. Really, the only one who pays a price is myself. Anyway, you'll notice that my voice is a little calmer today, that I'm a little not as vocal. That's because I am so sick. I am just so out of it. So this episode, as far as the reviews and stuff, is going to be fairly short, but luckily, I was able to talk to one of my favorite indie creators, Ben, who does a comic called Waking Life. We had a fun little chat the other day, and so you guys are going to get to hear a lot of that. We talk about his comic Waking Life. We talk about just small press and being an independent writer. And then we also talk about high school football, high school band, Christian music. Oh man, we go on like so many different tangents, but it was so much fun. Ben is always a pleasure to have on the show, and he's one of my favorite people to talk to, and his comic is just really great. I'm so glad that I got to meet him at Houston Zine Fest like forever ago, man. I think that was 2013, 2014 when I met him, and he's just always kind of been a part of my life, and not like super close. It's not like we have Thanksgiving together, but I mean, I would love to have Thanksgiving with Ben. Ben, if you're listening, let's plan a Friendsgiving. We'll get all our favorite people together, and we'll just cook everything. I don't even care if it's vegan. I don't know if you're vegan or not. I should probably ask that. Like, that's not something you just ask people though. Like, hey, hi, my name's Brian. What's your name? Hi, my name's John. Are you vegan? Like, it's just something that doesn't come up. But I don't care. No. Anyway, super tangent. I'll save that for the interview part. Let's get on with the comic books that I had to review for this week. All right, guys, up first is Terry Moore's Motor Girl issue number 10, which is the final issue in this series, and I am so sad. I loved Sam and Mike, their story. Sam, of course, being an ex-Marine, I think she was a Marine. Oh, man, now I can't remember. Now I'm a horrible person because I can't remember this. And Mike is kind of like her imaginary friend / mental crutch to help her kind of get through everything, through the PTSD that she was going through. And then there's aliens in this, and this last issue there's a big, huge climax between the aliens, the government evil dudes that are trying to take over the junkyard that Sam works at, and then of course Sam's battle within her own mind and Mike, and it all just gets crazy integrated, and things start switching back and forth between the aliens and her seeing stuff from the war, and she's talking to Mike, and she's realizing that things are not getting better, things are getting worse, and it just gets so crazy, this issue, and the questions that it leaves at the end of this issue. Like, it's a beautiful story, and I love the way it finishes, but it leaves you wondering, it leaves you thinking, and just like about what you read, what was real, what wasn't real. And I think that's kind of the magic of this story, you know, just what was real, what wasn't real, what felt real to Sam, and what felt real in her mind and stuff. And, you know, maybe that's what people that go through PTSD really feel, or maybe that's a glimpse of what it's like. I don't know. I have never had it, and I don't really know anyone close to me that does. And so I'm not the best source for this. But it was a beautiful story. I loved Motor Girl so much. I'm sad to see it end. Maybe she'll come back in another thing. I don't know, but I really love the characters. Sam and Mike was just really great. Artwork's been phenomenal in here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Terry Moore's work. You should definitely check it out. I can't wait till this goes to a special edition hardcover or a trade paperback. It should have all 10 issues, hopefully. Definitely something that you guys should pick up. Next issue is Doomsday Clock, issue number 1. Of course, this is from DC, and this is them starting to tie in the Watchmen series into the main Marvel DC universe. And so it's really intriguing to me. I've always kind of liked the Watchmen series just because it was dark and gritty. And that's kind of how I've always associated DC books and just that versus Marvel, you know. And just this dark grittiness, and the Watchmen was definitely darker and grittier. You know, I remember being younger and really liking the movie. And yes, I know people had a problem with the ending versus the comic book. Honestly, I felt like the movie ending made sense for a general audience. If you introduce some crazy giant tentacle octopus monster, I think that would have thrown the public for a huge loop. I think it was easier to wrap our heads around, oh, this dude is sacrificing himself to be the villain that everyone gets behind, because it's an embodiment of someone that they've known and trusted and believed to be good, and now it turns out he's bad. And to me, that made more sense. And that's just coming from a general audience, but who knows, whatever. Anyway, in Doomsday Clock, of course, we're following Rorschach all of a sudden. And spoiler alert, if you read The Watchmen, he died. Oh, he exploded, died. Dr. Manhattan blew him the frick up, inside out. And now there's this Rorschach. It turns out, though, this Rorschach might not be exactly who we think he is, but he claims to be Rorschach, so we'll just kind of go with it. The whole thing, though, is they're trying to find Dr. Manhattan, because after everything, he left Earth, and this new Rorschach, Vedit, decided to team up, and they also decided to recruit some villains from the Watchmen universe to help them locate Dr. Manhattan. Over on the DC universe side of things, Superman wakes up from a nightmare, and apparently that's the first nightmare he's ever had, and that's kind of a big deal for him. And it's crazy because he's reliving the death of his parents when they die in a car accident. So what does this all mean? How does that tie into everything? Of course, I'm not reading any of the other DC books that kind of allude to any of this stuff. I'm just reading Doomsday Clock, and I liked it. I thought the artwork was really good in it. I thought it's a solid story. It definitely lays the groundwork for what's to come. I just need to see what comes next, really, before I really have a good idea of how much I like this series. But as far as the first issue goes, I thought it was solid. It makes me want to read the next one. But that's about it for that. The last book that we're going to talk about, I picked up on a whim just because I liked the cover. It had purple and blue and a white circle in the middle, and it looked really cool to me. And it's called Void Trip, and it's by Image Comics. This is issue number 1, and we're introduced to two hitchhikers / homeless people, but they have a spaceship, so I don't really know what to think of them. They do talk about doing drugs a lot, this stuff called space fruit, and people get high on it. Of course, the girl, it's a girl and a guy, and the whole idea for them is they're trying to go to this promised land, whatever it may be, and she likes to get high on space fruit. Well, he likes to get high on space fruit too, but she's currently high and just kind of very destructive. That's really all I took away from this series. They're just destructive, not nice people. I mean, they're not evil. They're just manipulative and trying to get what they want. It does seem like they are being followed by someone, and that someone seems to be destructive in the violent way. And it's just interesting to see what this, for lack of a better term, bounty hunter is willing to do to try to locate these two, for all purposes, hobos. It's just really crazy. I don't know what to think of this book. It's very different than anything I'm reading. I don't know if I really feel like I am invested in any of these characters. I honestly, I don't like the girl. She's very destructive. She's very, like, detrimental to their whole plan. Like, there's one point where they're like, yeah, let's get to the promised land. He's like, well, let's just turn on the computer AI so it can tell us how to get there or to point us in the right direction. And she's like, no, that's dumb. Like, they won't let you in if you just do that. You have to find it, like, by feeling, man. You gotta just go. And I was just like, maybe that's just because I'm just like that. Like, that's me. Like, I like to have an idea of where I'm going, so then I go in the right direction, you know? Or, like, it's not like, hey, let's get to Pittsburgh, and then I have no idea where Pennsylvania is, so I don't know in what general direction to go. You know, I at least say, oh, I need to take this highway to get towards that way, you know? Like, that's the kind of person I am. So maybe that's why I don't like her that much in this comic. It's just like, oh my god, like, why would you do this to yourself? And it's just frustrating. And maybe it's because maybe this is what got me sick. This comic book got me sick because I just got so mad at it. I don't know. It looks beautiful, though. I love the colors in this book, and really that's kind of what caught my eye with the cover of it, and the colors inside the book continue to impress me, and it paints a very cool world, and one that seems like it could be interesting. However, I'm just not interested in the characters. Just even the bad guys don't really speak to me all that much, like, oh, these are people we need to watch out. They just seem very generic and just kind of meh to me. Like, I wasn't really impressed with this book, and honestly, if I think about it, if I compare this to Doomsday Clock, maybe they're kind of similar in a way. They lay the groundwork for what's to come next. Solid issues, if I'm being honest, between both of them. I think the reason why I enjoy Doomsday Clock more is because I know those characters, and I know what the direction that this comic's heading. I know that eventually the Watchmen are going to merge into the DC universe, and so the excitement of it has me more excited for Doomsday Clock versus Void Trip. And I think that's the problem with Void Trip, is I don't have an idea. I don't know what to expect, and so there's no hype for me for this. It was just me just plain reading it and just kind of being like, meh. But maybe you guys should check it out. I know Ryan O'Sullivan, good writer. I've read some of the other stuff that he's done, and it's good. You know, I like it. I like some of this other stuff. It's just, for whatever reason, Void Trip just did not speak to me. So check it out yourself. Let me know how wrong I am. You know, maybe I just don't get it. Like, that's the thing. Like, you know, you have people who review and rate comic books, and sometimes it's like they just aren't in on the thing, you know, maybe they just don't get it. And, you know, I want to admit that I'm not a very bright guy, so if this is like high humor that I'm just not getting out of Void Trip, well, that's because I'm stupid. And so let me know how stupid I am. Explain it to me like I'm 5. What is it? ELI 5? Explain like I'm 5. Yeah, that's what that is. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for the comic books that I had to review for this week. Let me just talk about 2 more things, and then we'll jump into the interview with Ben. Okay, guys. So, quick things that I wanted to talk about that were super exciting for me. First off, I finally decided to get a Nintendo Switch and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which hands down is my all-time favorite game currently. It is just so much fun. I love every bit of it. It's got the complexity of some of the best RPGs, but it's super easy to pick up and play, and that's what I love most about it. Like, it was just everything. I didn't have questions. I wasn't like, well, how do I do this? The only thing that was kind of like touch and go was the cooking system and figuring out what ingredients make what type of stuff. But once you figure out, oh, this like spicy fruit makes stuff that makes you warmer or resistant to cold, and the stamina stuff works with your stamina, like, it's fairly easy to pick up. But Breath of the Wild is just, I mean, pun intended, it takes your breath away, man. It's so great. It's so beautiful. I love the cell shading of it. I love just the art style, and I put the voice narration to Japanese, and it feels like I'm playing like an anime, you know, like I'm just in this great world. You know, I love watching anime, so getting to play a game that makes me feel like I'm playing an anime is just a lot of fun and just really enjoyable. What I know a lot of people were kind of down on the Switch, but I love it. I think I know a lot of people love the Switch too. So it's like you either love it or hate it for whatever reason. I absolutely love it. It's like having a Wii U, a slightly better Wii U, but right there in the palm of your hands. You know, like the weird, awkward Wii U controller, but they totally made it less awkward with the Switch controller, you know. And I love that I can just, if I have it in the handheld mode and I come home or I'm like at home, like, because I'll play it like laying on the floor, on the couch, in the bed or whatever, and I'm like, you know what, I want to play it on the big screen TV, take it right over there, pop it into the dock, take the little joystick sticks off, and I put them on the controller port, so it's like I have like a regular controller, like an Xbox controller or whatever, and then I'm playing on my TV, and it's just so easy and so seamless, the switch between that, and it's just so much fun, so enjoyable. I haven't really gotten to test the battery life on the Switch yet, and I'm sure there's plenty of better people who have reviewed the Switch and the games that you can check out. As far as I'm concerned, though, it is a great system. It is an amazing game, and it's, for me, out of the games that I have played this year, including stuff that's come out last year that I've just happened to play this year, Breath of the Wild is definitely game of the year for me. It is the game that I bought this year is my all-time favorite game so far, and it's just great. I think it's easily in my top 10 of all-time favorite games ever, and I've only put in maybe 3 hours, like 3 to 5 hours into this game. So that's how amazing that this game has spoken to me, and I love it so much. Other cool things that I finally got to check out: Thor Ragnarok. Me and Casey finally went to go watch it. Got a babysitter. She wanted to go look at her favorite man meet Chris Hemsworth, and I just wanted to see Hulk in a hot tub because I heard that was a thing, and I was not disappointed. And there's total Hulk butt in this, and I love it. It was a fun movie. I can see there's criticisms about like how meaningful it is and how it starts to have serious moments, but then like quickly diffuses them, like never fully fulfills any of these serious moments that they have. It's a comedy. They even said, "Hey, we're making a comedy," and I'm not saying comedies can't have serious moments, but I get what they were doing with it. And, you know, honestly, when I go in, I'm not one that's too critical on movies. You know, I was harsh on Batman v Superman, but I feel like a lot of the criticisms that I had of that movie were fair. You know, I mean, I enjoyed some of that movie. I enjoyed the Wonder Woman. I enjoyed Batman. Superman is the thing that I just don't like from DC right now. And I know I'm not alone, and I know some people will think I'm wrong at the same time, but that's just how I feel. As far as Thor's concerned, I just enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Hela was okay. I mean, I liked her character. I liked her backstory of being like Odin's firstborn, and being a daughter, and then like her actually being the first to wield the hammer and being the harbinger of death and all that, and just that was really cool to me. I think just kind of the end game of the movie kind of fell flat to me. But honestly, overall, I just had a good time. And when I go to a movie, that's all I want to have is a good time. And, you know, that's kind of what Thor promised. They're like, hey, Thor Ragnarok is going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. And I had a good time. I didn't feel like it was a buddy cop movie like a lot of people were saying it was going to be. It never felt that team-uppy between Thor and Hulk, or Thor and Valkyrie. Spoiler alert, Valkyrie is a new character. They were all part of it. It never just felt like, hey, we need to team up to do this thing and like really team up and do team things and work together. It was just kind of like, okay, Hulk, you smash these things and I'll go lightning bolt these things, and then we'll come together at some point and then you'll do something and I'll be like, Hulk, don't smash, and then everyone will be like, ha ha ha, that's kind of funny. And it was kind of funny, but I thought the team up aspect of it was not so much like teamy. It was just kind of like, we're going to be together, but kind of do our own things. And I mean, it worked. It was fun. Like I said, at the end of the day, I just enjoyed the movie. It was a lot of fun getting to see Chris Hemsworth just have fun with it. And the director, whose name I'm not even going to try to say, especially because I'm sick, he plays the character Krog. Krog? No, Krog. I think it's Krog. And I know a lot of people didn't like him just because it was so... And my wife said, it's like, that voice does not match that body at all. Like, that doesn't make sense. But I loved it. I just loved how matter-of-fact he was the whole time. It's like, hey, man, how's it going? And just, I loved that about him. I just loved how casual he was about the whole thing. Like, when Thor's, like, asking him, like, why are you in here when they get captured and have to fight as gladiators? He's like, well, I tried to start a revolution, and I guess I didn't print off enough pamphlets because only my mom and her boyfriend showed up, and I hate that guy. And it was just funny listening to him, and it was just, there was a lot of funny moments in this movie, a lot that are in the trailers that you see, but then there's some that you don't see that are really funny. Some, especially with Mark Ruffalo, that I found quite amusing. And oh god, the character that stole the show though was by far Jeff Goldblum, who played the Jeffiest Goldblums of Jeff Goldblums in this movie. I mean, it was like they literally just said, just do what you would do if you were in this scenario, and he just completely does it. He's just completely out there, and it is just so funny, and his parts in the movie were just hilarious, and it really made things like that awkward funny that I loved. And oh god, I loved it. And like, I've learned that they ad-libbed a bunch of stuff, or quite a few things, and so I think that plays off pretty well to the humor of it. And I thought everyone did a good job as far as making me laugh. Like I said, it's not some serious movie that's going to be groundbreaking. What it really is, it's just a placeholder to kind of push the story forward till we get to Avengers Infinity War, which brings me to the next segue segment thing. Did you see the trailer for Avengers Infinity War? Jesus Christ, man. My hype is so real. Seeing Thanos, seeing all the heroes, seeing the Vision look like a regular human. What? Seeing like Black Panther and Winter Soldier fighting side by side, like what? Seeing Chris Evans, Captain America with long hair, like what? It was just crazy. And then seeing Thor, like looks like he's in huge distress, and then he's asking these people like, who are you guys? And then it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you're like, what? Like, I was just so excited. I can't wait to see what happens with this movie. Spider-Man's in it. Just freaking Scarlet Witch is the blonde, or not Scarlet Witch, how's it? The Black Widow is the blonde widow. Scarlett Johansson, she's got blonde hair in this movie. I was like, what? And so, I mean, there's just a lot of crazy things that's happening, and a lot of excitement, and a lot of that just comes from like what we know, what has happened in previous movies, and where these characters kind of went off to, and now seeing them all come back together, and just seeing what looks like it's going to be epic battles against Thanos and whatever army he brings, and it just, so excited to see what happens, guys. If you haven't checked it out, go to YouTube. I mean, it's everywhere on the internet, but you can go to YouTube and check out Marvel Entertainment's YouTube channel, and they got it right there. And I mean, that thing was trending #1, rightfully so. I mean, everyone, it was just all over it. It was just amazing. But guys, I think that's going to be it for me. My voice is killing me, and I am just completely exhausted. So, yeah. That's it for this portion of the Bry-Fy podcast. Please stick around and listen to me and Ben talk, because it's so much fun. I can't say enough good things about him and his comic waking life. Amazing enough, he's his publisher is able to print out a paperback volume of Waking Life now, and that's going to be coming out soon next year. So please check out it's COMICKER Press. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can barely think right now. And if that's not right, we do say the correct version while we're talking with each other. So definitely check out the website to stay up to date on what's going on with Waking Life and where you can find Ben next. Hopefully we'll be seeing each other again at Comicpalooza, which is like my all-time favorite convention to go to. And so I'm just really excited for all that. But why am I still talking to you guys? Let's get on with the interview. Bry-Fy out. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, as crappy as it sounds.
Oh, I find when I get stuffy, my head just feels so full. You sound like a normal human being, but I'm sure your brain just feels like so squished right now.
Right. No. What I think it is just in my normal day-to-day life, I just sound so bored and unenthusiastic that when I'm sick, I sound completely normal. That way I just get this illusion of always being at the same temperament.
There you go. It just levels it out.
Right. Oh man, so what have you been up to?
Not a lot. My wife and I got to spend Thanksgiving with my mom's side of the family this past week, and school got back in session on Monday, so I've just been working with my students, taking some of them through Great Expectations, and we started up like a faculty run walk club at my campus. So a couple of us went and ran and walked the track today, trying to keep some sort of like exercise alive.
Got to work out that turkey, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we were all saying. We're like, we got a lot of turkey in our system, man.
I don't think we talked about that much last time you were on. Well, last time you were on, the audio just didn't work, and so that was my fault. But the time that we actually recorded before that, I don't think we talked much about you teaching. That's a big deal. That's your job.
Yeah, and that was a shift. I started out as a teacher in 2010, and then moved into the nonprofit sector for a couple of years. I worked at a church as a communications guy for a bit, and then went to a Christian nonprofit doing communications for them too. So I've only been back in the classroom for about a year and a half now. But that overlapped with the publication of Waking Life. So it was kind of crazy that I've got a story about high schoolers while I'm teaching high school. That wasn't by design, but it just kind of worked out.
You're like, man, I really need some inspiration. I need to get on the inside.
What do the youth of today sound like?
Oh, man. No, that's really cool, though, man. In teaching, they always say that's a thankless job, but I know you post stuff from, like, the classroom and stuff on your Instagram and sometimes Twitter. Wow. It just looks like you're having a blast, man, and the kids look like they're having a lot of fun, too.
We have a great time. We've got a really good administration that supports that. I've got some just brilliantly clever kids, and they even let me do a comics class with them, Brian. So, like, I've got about 18 kids who meet up twice a week during, like, an advisory period, and we're working toward making an anthology that we're going to try to get ready in time for Comicpalooza in Houston, so these high school freshmen can have a chance to like table, show off their work, go talk to professional artists, and even attend some panels and just kind of get that experience.
Holy crap, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, supportive administration, like definitely thankful that they're willing to let me do it.
Right, dude, no, that's like wonderful, and I mean, it's so great, especially whenever I was in high school. I always liked to draw, and I always liked to tell stories or just make stuff up, and if I would have had something like this to channel that into, man, could have been like the next Rob Liefeld or something. No.
Oh, dude, there you go. Get all that cross hatching in. Oh,
yeah, man. Right. All these bushes covering up my feet, like it'd be great.
Well, I mean, aside from like head cold stuff, did you have a decent Thanksgiving? Did you guys travel or did you stay put?
We actually went back home because we moved to the Austin area, so home for us is about 3 hours away, back towards Houston. And we went and visited like all the family. It's always more work for the holidays than anything else for us because we have like 4 different families we have to visit. So, and especially now that we have our their grandson, our son, they're always like, we need to see him. You can stay in Austin, it's fine, but mail him down here or something.
Right. And you're like, you have a car.
Yeah. Right? But no, it was good. Got to meet a lot of the family that I miss. And actually, we got to meet. There's one of our family members. They're actually housing a foreign exchange student, a girl from Finland.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because we were all like, "Who's this blonde girl on the couch?" Like, we were scared to ask anyone like who she was. We just accepted her as a member of the family for a while.
Yeah.
Until finally someone was like, "Oh yeah, this is a foreign exchange student." And no, it was pretty cool just getting to meet all the people again that we moved away from.
That's epic, man. Oh wow, I love it. My brother-in-law went to West Point, and they had this German naval exchange student who came home with him last Thanksgiving. The guy's name was Felix, and he was like the most insane individual. He like baked bread for everybody. He we went to like a trampoline, jump around park or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And he like challenged us all to ride the electric bull because he's like, "Y'all from Texas, you should ride the bull." And then he way outdid us. It was crazy. So it's fun when like family expands to like let people in, especially foreigners. That's really neat that they were doing that. Was that your parents or was that like Casey's parents?
Oh no, it was actually a cousin of mine.
Okay.
Which was crazy because, well, they do have a small child. They have, I think, 2 small children. And just to have a teenager, like, I don't know, that's just crazy. Like, to me, I'm like, at what point do you decide, you know what, the little kid thing's fun, but let's borrow a teenager for a year, see how that goes. Like, is that like practice? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask them so many questions, but
It seemed like, man, that's crazy.
oh yeah, and then it's like you always, when you see someone, especially from out of country, you always want to ask them, like, what do you think of all this? And you ask them, like, I always feel so dumb because I'm sure she got asked this question like every day. Do you have Thanksgiving where you're from? What do you think of Thanksgiving? Like, and of course they don't have a version of this like how we celebrate it. It was just like you always just feel weird asking people stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
because they've been asked this before. She's probably been asked hundreds of times. Well, what do you think of Texas high school football? And she's like, I'm 17, dude. I'm just over here.
This is not the main part of my experience.
Right.
So,
but that's kind of the main part of Texas high school experience is football.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
absolutely.
Right? Heck, I mean,
it's Friday Night Lights.
Right? I mean, there was a movie.
Yeah.
TV show. Like, man. It's not
absolutely.
It's not Wisconsin high school football. No one talks about that. No.
No, that's trash. This is legendary stuff. Yeah. Yeah. No, I legit went to a high school that had gone through 7 state championships in the 70s and 80s. So my era, we got to state semifinals once. I didn't play football. I was in the band. But I mean, definitely, when Friday night hit, everything shut down in the town. We went to Gordonwood Stadium. And it was a really cool like community event. Oh yeah. And I think I look back on it pretty fondly now, and I think I enjoy it more. Maybe now that I've got kids who play football. They're not varsity at this point. They're all freshmen or sophomores. But I think I've got a better appreciation for it now, maybe than I did when I was a student.
Oh yeah. I was in the band too. I tried playing football, but man, I was undersized, outmatched. And naturally
that was
went
my
to
story,
the band, right?
Yeah, no,
like,
I was a lineman in middle school. It was horrible just because I couldn't catch or run.
Right? Okay. Oh my God. So I'm not the only one. They did that to me too. They're like, you should be on the line. I'm like, Coach, I'm like 2 feet shorter than the next guy. He's like, no, it's fine. You'll do fine. Just hit him in the knees. You'll be safe.
There you go.
But no, like totally, I get that feeling because we came from a smaller town too, and it's like the whole town literally shuts down when your team, especially when I was a freshman in 8th grade, and then went to a freshman. We went to state both years.
Oh dang.
Yeah, ended up losing both years, but I mean,
that's hard.
Like having the town shut down and like everyone carpooling all the way to we played Kyle Field at Texas A&M.
Oh my god!
And so like that huge caravan of just charter buses and people's vehicles, just like in Friday Night Lights, man. It's like they kind of get that right. Like I grew up in that. I grew up in that football atmosphere, even though I wasn't really a football person. And so I don't know if it's also just kind of romanticizing that whole thing, but
well, yeah, maybe there's part of that too. But I mean, it's definitely a cool ritual. I think that's definitely the case. And you've got some guys who, I think if their lives peak as high school athletes, obviously that's not what we're going for. But there are some who taste that moment of glory playing high school sports, and then they move on to programming or to go to law school or something else and find other successes. But it's a neat thing to see a town back in a whole bunch of young people to try to achieve something.
Oh yeah, definitely. But we're getting way off topic now.
I know.
This is the topic for my sports podcast that I've been doing here recently.
That's right.
Right. But
yeah.
no, man.
Bry-Fy Sports.
Yeah. See, look, you know, man. Thank you. You're the one other person that knows about it.
I know. We're connecting on a visceral level here. This is important.
Really though, and see, and I never knew that you were knew that much, and were into high school football, kind of like that too. So that's a cool thing to learn.
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely.
That's how you grow a friendship.
There you go. We got to compare band instruments in a little bit. That'll be the next step.
Oh, ooh. First off, what did you play?
Oh, I was a French horn.
Oh, you were a French horn? Okay, well, my best friend was a
Yeah.
French horn player, but I played drums. I was in percussion.
Oh, come on. You got a free pass. You were actually cool in band.
Nah, that's what everyone liked to think.
No, my wife was saying from the other room, she was in color guard. So she tossed a rifle. She got a cool pass too.
Oh,
but,
dude, that's sweet. No, I was always friends with color guard members. My wife, she plays the trombone.
Oh, man. There you go.
We're all just a bunch of band nerds. We need to get together and just make our own.
And then we're
marching
talking about comic books too. This is very appropriate. This is working.
Oh man, but I mean, since and this is a comic book podcast, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, man. Last time, our failed attempt at an episode with you and Tyler, right? Tyler.
Yep.
Okay. I always forget his name, and I feel so bad. I want to call him Kyle every time I see him, and I don't know why.
I think he'd be delighted. No, it's fun. Tyler Ellis is definitely a guy who I think we'll be hearing and seeing a lot more of. His Chimera stuff is so accomplished, and it's been exciting to see him kind of grow. I don't know if grow is the right word. He came out pretty fully formed with his first issue, and now he's 6 issues in. He's about to be in print, so that's kind of fun.
Speaking of about to be in print, that's why we brought you on, man.
Yeah.
And so, like I was saying, last time we talked and the episode messed up, you guys were in the middle of a Kickstarter to get both your books published in print.
Mm-hmm.
How did that Kickstarter end? I didn't follow up to the very end.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So COMICKER Press, our publisher, Shawnee Williams, is just a stand-up guy of the comics industry, and he went ahead and just started up his own creator-owned shingle. And they've done a successful Kickstarter for 2 books, The Casebook of Rabbit Black by Kate Sharon, and then Lost Angels by David Acampo and Chris Anderson. So with the second Kickstarter that just happened, that was one that I was part of. Tyler's book was part of that Kickstarter, and the idea was, we're a startup company. We're breaking even on all of our digital stuff, if not doing better than that. But we need capital to print these books and get them shipped. So the campaign was for 27,000, and Brian, by the end of it, we had hit 21,000. We had just fallen short. I mean, we didn't have the steam to get that remaining 6,000 in. And I think there were a couple of factors in that. Some of that being that, a couple of us aren't really well-established creators yet. And so we're still growing a fan base that would be necessary to help push us over that kind of line. But we know there was a lot of good community support behind it. That Sean just busted his rear end getting the word out about it. Some of it was that it hit in the middle of 2 major southern U.S. hurricanes. And so, I think a lot of people had a very good question in their minds of, do we pay for a digital comic to get in print, or do we actually give money to benevolence and to help people out who need that? And I think, the latter choice is the necessary choice. But what happened recently is that we've had some individual backers come forward for both Tyler's book and my book to say, we want to see this thing come into print. And so they've arranged it and worked it out with COMICKER Press. And so Waking Life and Chimera are going to be in print. We're finishing the files right now, and so they should be available, I think, around March.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Just I mean, you have those unfortunate events happen, like you mentioned with the hurricane, and just falling short. I mean, raising $21,000, man, that's nothing to scoff at, dude. That's a lot of money.
Definitely. We were so gratified by that support, and it was higher than the amount raised for the previous campaign, but yeah, definitely.
And then, so, having that fall through, you kind of probably feel bummed with everything, but then, like, these angels just drop down. I'm like, this is going to happen. And so, I mean, that's really awesome that people were just so moved and touched and just believe in your books to say, this needs to happen. Like, I see something here, and I've always felt that way about Waking Life and now Chimera, now that I've finally been starting to catch up on that. It's just, you guys have very strong books. I mean, there's no other way to say that. I mean, they're both solid, they're both good, and I agree with them. If I had that kind of money to throw at them to get them made, I would have done it a lot sooner. But
right, yeah, we're all looking under rocks to find the angel investors of the comics community, right? It's,
right.
Well, and I think, you see this. I think we share this in common. We both get involved in comics mainly because of our passion for the medium. Like, you've hit over 200 episodes now just because you love this stuff so much that you want to share it with the world and talk about it and get other people in the conversation. And I think that's one of the big questions for comics in the future is, like, how do we keep that community spirit going, but make sure that it's a lucrative thing when it comes to, like, 21st century media.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's hard. At the end of the day, for me, it's always just letting people know, like, being excited about the things that I'm excited about, and hopefully people ramp up about them too, And like I said, that's why I've always retweet your stuff. That's why COMICKER Press.
I appreciate that.
I retweet them a lot. And dude, they've really been stepping up their game here in the past few months, like retweeting you, Tyler, and just some other stuff, like getting that out there to people. And so that's really good to see a publisher that's very much behind you guys.
Oh, no question. And I think probably for anybody who's looking to do creator-owned work, especially if they already do some sort of comics work, maybe for like a work for hire agreement, a COMICKER couldn't be a better fit. Sean gives us a lot of flexibility to craft our stories and to get them out at a pace that, like, lets a sane person have a second job. For me, that's teaching, but I mean, it's entirely possible for full-time comics artists or writers out there. If they want to do a creator-owned piece, like, they could do that with COMICKER and with Sean, and do it at a really reasonable rate, and start building that body of work for their own IP as well.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even not just for, like, smaller press guys like yourself who have to work a second job or choose to work a second job, but you're starting to see bigger creators come to smaller publishers, maybe not COMICKER, but they find other small publishers to do incredible books, and especially when you're getting guys who have written for the big two or Image, like, I mean, you're starting to see a lot more credibility, and I think you're seeing a lot of these smaller publishers start to grow. I don't want to say ego, but that kind of sounds bad at the same time. But I mean, you
get a little swagger from having some good guys in your line, right? Yeah. Good gals, good writers.
Definitely. Yeah. But I think for people who even want to start up a small publisher and try to get these people, it kind of gives you a confidence knowing, you're not going to be overlooked by the big guy if you offer a good enough statement saying, like, hey, this is what we want to provide for you guys as writers and as creators. You could pull on maybe not a Brian Michael Bendis since he signed a DC contract, but
I know, what a crazy jump ship, man.
I know, right? I just started reading Miles Morales' Ultimate Spider-Man too, right when that news.
Okay.
And I was like, no.
I'm betting he's going to leave it in good hands, but that's I think a big question for that. I mean, Bendis' creator-owned work that he'd done for years.
Yeah.
I think Marvel had it through their Icon line, but I guess the question is, does that go to Vertigo now? Does he republish it through Image? Like, what do you think is going to happen to that?
I feel like a lot of that stuff's going to stay, though. I don't know if he can take that stuff with him since he published it through them still. I mean, I know it's creator owned, but you'd have to imagine they have something, like, they have to have something tied to them.
Maybe there's like a period of time before it can migrate somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
That makes sense.
It's so hard, especially with the big two, and then like with Vertigo and I always forget what Marvel's is called. Icon or?
Yeah, but Icon was kind of a limited deal. I think they reserved it really Bendis put some books through them. That's where Millar
Yeah.
and Romita Jr. did their original Kick-Ass run. But that's now moved to Image. Like, he's taken that to Image now.
Yeah.
So
you could
I
be
don't know.
right that after some time, or maybe now, Icon doesn't have that deal through Marvel anymore, so stuff that was through them gets to just go wherever they want to go now. But I mean, coming back to what I was trying to say when I sidetracked myself, I do that all the time, man. But I mean, it's like I said, small publishers can pull these bigger names now because, I mean, I think at the end of the day, a lot of creators want to tell their own stories, you know, as much as they want to play with the characters they grew up with and loved. They have stories that they want to tell that sometimes DC and Marvel won't let them tell.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think two guys who I see kind of creating that good mix right now. You see Donnie Cates and some of the stuff he's been doing with like Aftershock or Image. And now he's writing that Thanos book for Marvel. He's writing Doctor Strange for them. But he's keeping, as his star grows over there, the small publishers he works with get to benefit from that as well. And I think for us, David Campo, who writes Lost Angels, he was part of DC's talent development workshop recently. And so he's got a piece in the new talent showcase that comes out this month. And I think we'll continue to do writing gigs for them. So again, as his profile rises, that then benefits publishers that let him have his creator own work, as people search out his stuff.
Oh, definitely. And I feel like that only helps like you and Tyler out even more because if I know like, oh, this guy, he came from, this little publisher and he's really good. I wonder what other talent they have hidden there, and they're going to see Ben and be like, wow, Ben is amazing. He should probably write the new Spider-Man book.
And I tell you, there's one of our guys too, Matt Krotz creates a comic called Kyrie for COMICKER.
Okay.
And I think my jaw just continues to drop when I see the stuff he draws. And that's another guy that I'd like to see more people sit up and take notice of. He's kind of on a level with some like cartoonists like Chris Schweitzer or Garen Ewing, guys who just like have incredible chops in craft, but really hone their stories over time. I think Matt's doing that kind of high level, wonderfully lush work. And I think when people snap to it, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this has been waiting under our noses the whole time.
Right. Oh man. I don't know. It just, as much as people are down on comic books sometimes, like with the brick and mortar stores, I still feel like creatively there's a big renaissance happening. It just, I don't know. It has me excited to see what's going to come out in the next few years.
What do you think are some important trends you're seeing right now? Just out of curiosity.
Dang, that's tough.
It's a big question. We talked about creators going to smaller publishers, but I mean, what else do you think is some of that rising tide that you're seeing?
Really, a lot of what I see now, and this is just me personally, I kind of purposely try to not get too involved with the bigger comic book stuff, the bigger news. Mainly because my podcast, I like to focus on indie and I like to focus on smaller press. For me, for the convention scene wise, I'm seeing a lot of creators hit up zines, and I'm seeing a big rise in zine fests. And that's, I mean, I know it's always been there. I know that zine scene has always.
Zine scene.
I feel proud that I said that.
You can coin the phrase. That's good.
Yeah, a phrase has been said like millions of times. But if I'm the first to trademark it,
there you go.
But no, I mean, for me, that's something that I've always, that I have been taking a notice to here recently, is just this huge rise in just people creating zines, and then you see a lot of small comic book people coming out of these zine fests too. But I mean, it really comes down to, like we've been saying, is these small publishers. I just see a huge rise in these guys getting a little more bigger. One that I follow is Alterna Press.
Oh man, yes.
When I first started following them, they were very small to me. The main guy, Peter Simeti, there you go. And he was doing this book called The Chair, and he was really proud of it, and it was really good. Next thing I know, he's like, oh, we're filming it, and Roddy Piper's going to be in it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they have a movie from their comic book, and I'm just like, holy crap, man. But you're starting to see this, there's a trend of I mean, this has been a case since, Marvel movies have been pounding it out. You're seeing companies look for comic IPs to make TV shows based off of it. And I mean, they're starting to say, okay, well, Marvel and DC is kind of out of the picture because that's Disney and Warner Brothers, so they're looking at these smaller presses, And so to see something like that happen with Alterna, I mean, they did it themselves. It wasn't like some big studio came in and said, we need this.
Oh yeah, and I respect their hustle so much. I think they got back into the newsprint game.
Oh yeah,
and that means they can create really affordable comics that have a wide reach. Like they hit comic stores 2 months earlier than they hit the newsstand. But I mean, you go to a Toys R Us this holiday season, you're going to see Alterna Comics on a newsstand, and that's a great chance to hook in a new reader with a casual buy that they wouldn't have found otherwise. I mean, I think they've been really just brilliant in kind of figuring out a way back into that overlooked part of distribution.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And I just had a dude who writes for them, Cody Sosa, and I mean, he was a pleasure. Guy was so great to talk to, and it's great to be a part of these things. Oh, go ahead.
Is he on Scrimshaw, or which one does he write for?
You know what? I just had his stuff up because I was just looking at it.
I'm not trying to catch you out. I'm trying to think, too. I've seen his name, but I'm just trying to remember which of the newsprint books he's doing right now because they've got a great lineup.
He's starting one. Okay, he does Croak.
Croak. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. And
that's
one,
more of a horror-oriented title, I think.
Yes, but it's a really good book. But he's got another horror book coming out called Sinitis, which is going to be kind of based off, what is it, tinnitus, that disease, like the ringing in your ear or something?
Yep. Yeah.
And he's doing a horror book based off of that. And so that's going to be coming out next year. And we talked about that, and we just had a lot of fun.
Oh, dude.
But not as much fun as I have with you, Ben, so you don't have to worry.
Brian, you're too kind. You're too kind. Well, and I think that's part of it too, right? Like seeing that creative restlessness that you're talking about Cody having and how he's diversifying his portfolio. I don't know. I think that's it's neat to know there are opportunities for that. You don't have to be locked into writing just one thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But man, we keep talking about we need to talk about you, man.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about me.
Fine. Yeah, let's talk about the French horn. No.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh man, but I mean, no, Waking Life. There's probably someone that's listening to the show that has never heard of Waking Life. So let's just run down what that's kind of about.
Yeah, elevator pitch for it would be this is basically Enchanted meets Degrassi. So you've got a guy, he's a high school student, wants to be an animator. He's got his eyes set on the prize, and he's kind of just narrowing down everything in his life so he can do that one thing. He's eschewing friendships. He's not really close with his family, and his imaginary childhood best friend shows up at his high school. She's decided she does not want to be sidelined from his life, and so she starts a chain reaction where reality starts to bleed into dream and vice versa. And so this kid, Robbie, and his best friend, Stacy, who's from this imaginary realm, have to now confront a threat that could cause both of their worlds to mix in uncontrollable ways. And it's written from the vantage point of being a family-friendly book. This is something that would be very Pixar-esque. It's bright. It's colorful. It's got really lame dad joke gags. It's something that ideally you could print in front of someone who's 9 to 90 and they could enjoy it and find something to relate to.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's always fun to read. I always find myself smiling every time I get a chance to look at it and look through it.
Smiles are good, yes.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Good.
And it's a good book just to have out to read, or just to be seen reading, because it's not like one of those books that you're like, oh God, don't let someone see that I'm reading this.
Yeah, no innocent
right
content on this one. Yeah, no question. Well, and I think some of that is I want to make sure I'm creating work that my kids will be able to read someday. I'm creating work that my students could read and enjoy. That doesn't mean that there aren't stories that have more mature elements that I wouldn't want to tell someday, but I think this is an ideal place to really start making work and to stake out a spot. And I think a lot of my the guys that I look up to for encouragement and that encourage me make similar kind of all age oriented work, and there's just a great opportunity, I think, in the bookstore market for that too, where you've got incredibly successful people like Raina Telgemeier, Jeff Smith and his Bone series, Kazukibishi and Amulet. I mean, just just great all ages books that are being snapped up by young readers, and that hooks them into comics in a way that maybe they wouldn't have gotten by just concentrating on a character or a single company.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought up Amulet. I started reading that. Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's something
man.
wonderful about it. What does it for you as a reader when you look at Amulet? Like what kind of fires your imagination on that?
With that, it's just the world that they're in. Just that,
Mm-hmm.
the whole, like the house and the robots, and just for whatever reason, that just captures my imagination. Like it reminds me of what was it, the little toaster that could, or the brave little toaster.
A Brave Little Toaster, yeah.
And for whatever reason, that's the kind of thing that I get out of this. For whatever reason, it's just like that story of just this little, well, not toaster, a child, just having to do something so brave, especially at the beginning of the story. Her mom's missing, the brother gets lost or captured. I can't remember. It was captured, I think. I mean, that's just it. But it doesn't. There's some dark and scary stuff with it, but it doesn't go there in a way. It still stays lighthearted. It still stays adventurous versus scary, and which is something that I've really enjoyed about that book.
Yeah. Like the peril's really strong in it, but
Yes.
it's not like you're afraid that nothing's going to burst through and disembowel anybody. Like that's not
Right.
part of the equation.
It's not like I'm watching or reading like Saga or something, and I have to worry about something like crazy happening on the next page.
Sure.
It's definitely
Sure.
a page turner, Amulet is, and I'm so glad you mentioned that book because I've forgotten how much I really enjoyed it. Like my library that I was reading it from, I've caught up on all the volumes that they have there, and so I think there's one more that I need to read because I think I've only read. Man, I don't know, but that was a good book, and like you said, Bone is also a phenomenal series, and I feel like Waking Life has a place, especially among those books. I feel like it has that same type of story where there's adventure. Well, I mean, it is an adventure. Like it's just a fun adventure. It's a page turner, and while it has its
You're
themes,
saying these things. I love it.
Man, I mean, I say them because I see them.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's easy when you create the work to like doubt how it plays out. So it's encouraging to know the effect it's got on people who have seen it. But yeah, I think part of it too is I chose to steal a little bit from a great. Winsor McCay was this early American animator and illustrator who created Little Nemo and Slumberland, did some of the earliest American animated cartoons. And so I've really taken his work and his life as inspiration for this story. And I mean, he's a high bar to hit, but hopefully this does him some credit just in terms of taking some wonderful scenarios that he started out with and kind of twisting them around in the light a little bit to see what they look like in a different scenario.
Let's not call it steal. Let's say you're paying homage. That sounds
Okay.
so much better.
We'll say homage. Why not?
Because if someone comes back and listens to this and they're like, "Oh, he stole," no.
Well, and McKay's work's in the public domain, so I can't really steal it.
Oh,
I'm just reutilizing it.
I guess that's true too.
Yeah,
But,
it just sounds more edgy to say steal, and I'm a high school teacher and a dad, so I'll take all the edgy I can get.
Right, you got to be as edgy as you can.
I drive a minivan, Brian, and I played a French horn in high school. I mean, like, what are we talking about here?
Hey, as long as you like jamming metal on those minivan speakers, like that's all that matters.
That's what we're talking about. I'm mixing a little emo with that,
Oh yeah.
like we're keeping it real.
What do you listen to? Like, what's something that like you jam?
Right now, it's very eclectic. I play a lot of soundtracks for my students. If I'm listening to personal stuff, it's either like top 40 pop, because my wife and I kind of have a candy ear,
Right.
Or it's Christian hip hop, which sounds really like peculiar. But we have a station in Houston that plays Christian hip hop, and there's something about like a really bold, like proclamatory way of delivering that content that I like. And there's some really talented people working in that field too. So
Oh yeah.
that's interesting. I think it's also faith can be a hairy topic, but I think for me it's very important. And I appreciate how in Christian hip hop, like there are aspects of faith being addressed that aren't necessarily like safe and sanitized. Like I'm hearing some good songs about the fact that there's such a huge racial divide in the American church, or songs about how we kind of turn a blind eye to like real suffering. And I'm like, I need this kind of stuff to challenge me. maybe that's a little deep and off to the side, but that's part of my diet right now.
Oh no, man, that's right up my alley. Just that's good to hear. When I was younger, I used to listen to a lot of Christian music. Man, I'm trying to remember who I grew up on. What was that? Newsboys, dude. Oh my God! Like when I was growing up, man, that was all you. I had a tape deck with it was a Tasmanian Devil tape player, and stupid wraparound headphones. Newsboys was in that dang thing. I think I wore out that tape.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Did you have what was on there? Would it have been Shine, those?
Oh
those
yes,
yeah.
And it was great when I learned I could record on the blank tapes. Man, I was making my little mixtapes of all my favorite. I had man, I just remember growing up loving them. Pillar, I think, was another one.
Pillar, absolutely, yeah.
And then I started. Oh no, go ahead.
That's that heavier kind of side, and that got me into emo through To Tooth and Nail and their lineup of guys like Emery and Nay.
Okay, yeah.
And all that stuff.
Dude, I got to see Emery live. They were playing with Under Oath. And,
oh, my God.
August Burns Red was the other band that they were playing with.
Oh, my gosh. That would have been such a sick show.
Dude, it was at, I guess it's called the Houston Bayou Theater, or what is that now?
Well, I don't know.
Because it used to be the Verizon Theater down in the theater district in Houston, but I think it's the Bayou something now. I don't remember what they changed it, but that's where we saw them, and dude, that was the heaviest show I've ever been to.
Oh, I can imagine.
And it was so great because after the show, me and some friends went around where the buses were, and we were talking to some of the dudes from Emory. And getting to ask them, and one of my friends goes, "Hey, what's it like playing with August Burns Red?" And
oh my gosh,
I can't remember. I think it was the drummer turns around, and is like, "They're serious." That's all he said, and it was just so funny getting to because those guys were just so down to earth, and I don't know how big they were at that time. I know they opened for that show. But it was great getting to see them, and then my taste kind of went a little heavier, and I don't know if you've heard of a band called For Today.
I have not heard of them. They're mega hardcore.
Yeah, that. It's pretty metal.
Totally.
But they have some other stuff melodic stuff too. But if you're into something different, you should definitely check out For Today.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
there's a guy in my church small group who loves metal shows. Loves metal shows. He was getting tickets to Metallica for his birthday present last year.
Oh, sweet.
And this year he's going to a hardcore show for his birthday. Carlos goes hard. And when he asked us if we wanted to go to a show with him, some of us were like, oh, maybe. And he's like, my friend John's like, yes, I do. And he's like, John, I'm glad you're into real music.
Dude, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting thing. I think maybe if there's a bow that ties this all together, we talked about being in the band in football towns. We're talking about Christian music, which is a very quirky kind of authentic, but also kind of outsider thing.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about comic books. And I think the thing that maybe ties those together in my life and maybe for yours is those are all kind of outsidery things. They're not necessarily part of the mainstream when you look at culture as a whole. And I just think it's wonderful that there are communities around these weird niche things where we can celebrate those and celebrate what it looks like to be maybe a little bit of an outsider, but also tell stories that could speak back to somebody in the center, if they get in touch with it or hear it or, stick around during the halftime show.
Right. Damn, man. You need to do a podcast. You're great at this.
Whatever, man. I get to hang out on a brilliant podcast like yours.
Whatever. I only got 5 listeners. It's fine. No.
but they're dedicated, and they're cheering you on to episode 300 now that 200's in the books.
Oh, man. That's going to be... Nah, I'm fine. I can do it. I don't know. Someone asked me the other day, man, what's it like? How hard is it to just keep up with it? I'm like, I just talk in a microphone. And, I'm sure some people are like, oh, I just draw, I just write.
Right.
But, it's great. It's fantastic. And like you said, I do have very dedicated listeners, and I know they listen to what I say, and I know when I tell them, hey, go check out Waking Life, they're going to go check out Waking Life. That's me being a little too big for my britches there, but...
Hey, I will take all the weight throwing around you can manage. That's perfect.
I'm a little distracted. My son's walking around with no pants on.
As he should. He's at home, and all men should know they can walk around in just their underwears whenever they want to at home.
He's beyond that. He is very naked.
Yeah.
Actually, well, we're potty or we're about to start potty training, and so.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha. So you want him to to go full force. I get that.
Right. Oh man, he's already peed on the carpet. It's bad, but it's fun. My wife is like the best. She's super mom and taking care of it all. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Here's to be being married to amazing women, right?
Right. Oh man. All right, dude. Well, hey, I'll let you go so you can enjoy the rest of your evening, man. But I really enjoy talking to you every time you come on, and
absolutely,
it's always a pleasure having you. I feel like it's criminal that I don't live in Houston, so we can't hang out.
It's okay. That's what the shows are for. Hooray
Right.
for Texas comic shows, yeah.
Oh heck yeah! Where are you gonna be at? Like, do you have any shows playing?
So Comicpalooza would be the next one that I've got my eye on. But one of the things that Sean through COMICKER has done is create a convention calendar that we can, use to know when show dates are coming. And I think that's something he's planning to take live to the public at large soon. So keep your eye on COMICKER's website because that's what I'm going to be doing to plan my shows. Hopefully that's what other listeners can do to plan their shows as well.
Awesome stuff, man. All right, dude. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for chatting about everything other than comics with me. It's so fun to just nerd out about all that stuff.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, man. Bye.
Take care. Bye.